We are back, everybody, kicking with the Rickens, your favorite people to kick with. All right, kicking with the Rickens, redefining retirement with licensed insurance professional and proud Papa Gerry Ricken and investment advisor representative, his awesome daughter, Heidi Ricken-Provost. How are we doing today?
We're doing fabulous. How are you doing, Doug?
Absolutely.
Doing well, thank you. I know y'all been through to Missouri. We're dealing with the whiplash of the seasons here. And so much stuff privately, too. We had a great tribute to Pappy on our last episode there, Jerry's father-in-law, Heidi's grandfather, so check that out. And we also talked about the trimmings for a tax-free retirement with the IUL. Want to know what that stands for? Check out the last episode on Apple, Spotify, the Ricken Financial YouTube page, or the media or podcast page on rickenfinancial.com. And before we get into the wrap-up of our mega series on tax diversification, I'm going to let Gerry be a proud papa here.
I'm going to just brag a little bit here, Doug. And for all of you listening, I'd like you to know that my business partner and daughter, Heidi Ricken-Provost, has been invited to speak at the largest conference for women in the financial industry. It's called Invest in Women in Boston, Massachusetts. April 21st through 23rd, she will be joining other women in the industry to talk about how to serve women in the financial world.
That is fantastic.
So I'm very, very proud of her.
I'm a little passionate about.
Yes, she's extremely passionate about that. She doesn't forget about us guys either, but she knows that women have been underserved in our industry, and she wants to change that narrative.
I love that. I love that. Heidi, how did that opportunity come about?
Funny you should ask, because you and I are connected through what I affectionately refer to as my back office, the Impact Partnership.
That's correct, yes.
And they brought this opportunity my way. So, it's wonderful when the people that you partner with believe in you and help build you up and empower you so that you can empower other women in this industry. Because as Dad said, when I'm in a room with all of the advisors, I'm usually one of the few women in that room, but we're starting to get more and more women in that room. But we need to do a little bit better job of empowering women in the financial sphere because, as I think I've mentioned this before, but the statistics show us that less than 20% of women feel confident to make their financial future decisions. And I think we need to change that narrative. So, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm honored, and I can't wait to go talk about how I bring info to the women. And more importantly, I can't wait to go learn what else I can bring back to empower women for their financial future.
For sure. Ricken Financial covering it all there in retirement and empowering women. And you all recently, too, had that women's seminar, too, that you hosted at the end of March. So proud to be a part of this, and I'm so glad, we're 6 months in doing the show together and seeing all the accomplishments that both of you have had in the business and outside of it, too, and how you help the community. It's just a real tremendous thing. And you're empowering people just with knowledge here on these shows, including what we're going to be doing here today. So we're wrapping up our tax diversification series. This is, I don't know if this is the end credits or the summary or the cliff notes or what, but take it away here.
Hey, tax fun never ends. Never.
It doesn't. And I think we've had about 10 or so, if my number's right, maybe slightly more, 10 to 12 different buckets that involve tax diversification and how to increase the efficiency there. So take it away. Let's have the whole table spread of the fish fry, if you will.
All right. Well, since we are wrapping up, or have wrapped or are in the process of wrapping up tax season, and when people talk about tax season, they talk about tax preparation season. Tax season for Heidi and I lasts all year long. It's a gift that keeps on giving all year long.
Clark.
So, and Doug, what you mentioned is 10 to 12 different items that we talked about during tax diversification, but there are actually many more than that, but we just don't have the time.
We didn't want to bore you with a 2-year series on tax diversification. We just thought we would bring a couple episodes your way.
You two could do play-by-play on rust growing on a bike outside, and I would listen to it. All right? Y'all are not boring at all, okay? Just so you know.
I like that one. But, we're talking tax diversification. We want to wrap it up because we mentioned so many different ways you can diversify your tax risk, but we didn't mention why it's important. So I think that's what we want to talk about now, because Every single person in our industry focuses so much on diversifying the risk in your portfolio, and that is incredibly important. And usually when someone mentions the word diversification, we're talking about your portfolio's diversification so that your risk is diversified and not all in one bucket.
It meets your risk tolerance.
Absolutely. But we take it a step further here because we want to make sure that your tax risk is also diversified. So how does this all fit together? Well, when you combine all the different pieces of the tax diversification that we've been speaking about, you can better plan for your financial future in terms of taxation so that you can either reduce your overall taxation or you might be able to work your way towards a retirement where taxes are eliminated because you do have the opportunity of time to forward forecast your taxation and potentially eliminate taxes.
And when we talk about elimination of taxes, we're talking about probably it's the timing of when you pay the taxes and how much you pay and what you pay and how you develop your strategies and look at everything so that you can potentially retire tax-free or at some point in retirement have the same amount of income, but it's not taxable because of the way you structured your investments. And that's what we're really talking about when we talk about tax diversification. How much do you have in the traditional IRAs, 401ks, the 403bs, 457 plans, those things that you have not paid tax on yet, that every penny coming out will be taxable?
And then, how much do you have in your Roth accounts? Were you able to utilize some of those Roth conversions from your traditional to your Roth accounts so that in the future, anything that comes out of that, as long as you're over the age of 59 and a half and it's been in Roth form for 5 years, you never have to pay tax on that.
And when you become required minimum distribution age, which is either 73 or 75 for people right now, that means that's the age in which the IRS says you must take money out of your traditional accounts, those 401ks, IRAs. So when you do that, how can you not pay tax on that? Perhaps by using a qualified charitable distribution.
And if you're doing that, remember, we always want you to take your required minimum distribution earlier in the year versus later so that you do have the wealth of time to give money to charity throughout the year. So you might be able to utilize that. Or during your working years, you could have saved into an HSA or a health savings account plan, and you might be able to utilize some of those funds in your retirement. As long as they go towards your healthcare needs, you wouldn't have to pay any taxation on what you've saved and accumulated in your HSA for your financial future.
Perhaps you had the opportunity to work for a company where you can invest in the corporate stock of that corporation. When you do that, you build up that piece of your 401k, the company will match that piece. Then when you retire, you can save taxes on that because in every other 401k opportunity, you have the ability to take money out, but all that money is at ordinary income tax rates, which are higher than capital gains rates. If you have corporate stock in your 401k, when you retire, you can pay capital gains rates on a portion of that, the corporation stock. So we have it's called net unrealized appreciation. And that plan is very intricate, and you have a one opportunity to get it right. So you must get it right. You must talk to people who know how to do it.
Of course. So an NUA might be a part of your financial future, but the beautiful thing about that is you get to be in control of when you take the funds in the future too. So say you never need the money that you have turned into a capital gain for the future, you could also pass it on to future generations. And speaking of future generations, you might have funded a 529 plan at some point in time in your life for your children, your grandchildren, someone in your life that means something to you. And we know those 529 plans, as long as they're used for educational purposes, are tax-free when the money comes out of them. Well, if you didn't need them for someone's education or you have no one else to pay some educational costs with your 529 plans, you might be able to convert those into Roth so that in the future, they also become tax-free to you in your financial future and retirement.
And it's springtime right now, Doug, and the wheat in my home state of Kansas is growing like crazy, which leads you up to harvest in June or July. So we're going to talk about not that harvest, but tax loss harvesting. Tax loss harvesting really means taking the losses and offsetting them with the gains and harvesting some of those losses so you don't pay tax on your gains. And you can do that within your portfolio here, or if you have a carry forward, a loss carry forward, you can utilize that and not pay tax on the large gains. Maybe you had NVIDIA and you bought it early on, that gain goes up, you can eliminate that tax on that gain.
Absolutely. And, we talked about harvest and where you're from. And, something that could be a part of your financial portfolio right now might be a municipal bond. So say that you invested in a municipality that's getting ready to prepare for harvest for the future. Well, that has different risks associated with it that have nothing to do with taxation. But if you have any income coming off of a municipal bond, it's not going to become taxable to you, at least at the federal level. But if you're going to avoid taxation on municipal bonds, it could provide some income for you for your financial future that you could take advantage of, as long as it doesn't make more of your Social Security income taxable, because that's the only point in time that the muni bond interest will hit your tax.
Then let's say you had some property or a company. You own a company and you're getting ready to retire and you want to sell that company. You want to sell it, or you want to sell the farm ground, whatever you want to sell. It's a capital asset. You can create an installment sale. And with an installment sale, you get paid over a period of time and you pay your taxes over a period of time as opposed to paying those taxes up front. So you may be able to reduce your tax liability if you spread that money over a period of time.
Absolutely. And if you want to, reduce your tax liability without having to come out of pocket to pay a little bit more for some of your expenses, and you own rental property right now, you could cost segregate the different types of depreciation in your rental property without having to come out of pocket and pay more for the expense. You could reduce your tax liability and be able to take advantage of the different confines of the tax system with cost segregation as well.
And when we're talking about cost segregation, different parts of your building have different lifespans. The building may have 27 and a half years, but the window may have 6 years. So you'll be able to diversify and reduce and actually depreciate those over different periods of time.
That's fascinating. I don't think most people realize that at all. That's why it's so important to talk to people like you. And then, of course, in our last episode, we talked about the different benefits for life insurance that happen actually during your life and with taxes, too.
Absolutely. So say you might need long-term care in the future. You could utilize life insurance and spend down your death benefit tax-free while you're living to cover your long-term care. Or if you want to save for your financial future in an investment vehicle that's not going to have taxation on it, you might be able to utilize a tax-free retirement plan with an indexed universal life policy too. But like we mentioned, every single component of this tax diversification is going to have to be personally built out for each person that we meet with, because every single person we meet with has a different tax situation, and these may or may not apply to you.
And it is a fingerprint. Because everyone's fingerprint is different. So I was just holding my finger up just to demonstrate that, but obviously you can't see that since you're listening to me.
Hey, Gerry, your finger sounds different.
Absolutely.
Thank you. But please call us at 314-442-6476 so we can see what we can do for you with respect to tax diversification.
Absolutely. And as Dad said, we're wrapping up tax season here for tax preparation season, but that doesn't mean that tax season ends, because tax season is every single day here at Ricken Financial. We want to make sure you're forecasting your future taxation and you're doing the right things during your working years, during your retirement, to make sure that you have a plan in place on the tax piece. Because it doesn't matter how much money you make or what you do for a living or how you set it aside, if when it comes out, all of it is going to cost you more in tax that you could have avoided with a simple plan that you put in place. So all it takes is a little bit of time to plan for the future so that you can work your plan, because without a plan, who knows, you might end up paying way more than your fair share. But we believe in paying our fair share of taxes, but we also believe in planning so that you don't have to pay beyond that.
Because there is a way to work within the confines of the Internal Revenue Code to make sure that you know what's available and to plan accordingly to reduce your tax liability in the future.
Also worth mentioning, This is a living and breathing plan. It changes all the time because guess what changes all the time? Our tax code and our life and our finances and our needs and our wants. And so this is something you got to update all the time. It's not just a set it and forget it thing. No form of financial planning should be set it and forget it. Nothing you ever do should be set it and forget it and just it'll work its way out. We got to make sure we're continuously updating this thing so that what you're doing is in your best interest continuously, that it's meeting your risk tolerance, your tax risk tolerance, and that, you're setting your family up for a successful financial future.
Yeah, well, that's extremely important. So if you want to start that conversation, folks, 314-442-6476, 314-442-6476, or go to Ricken-Financial.com and just set that complimentary meeting just to kind of look at all these. You just heard how many was 1, 2, 3, 4, about at least 10 different things that are ways that you can at very least lessen the tax burden there, and every single situation is different. And as we exit tax season here, and I know it's a year-round tax planning, but as we exit the actual April 15th deadline, there's a big event coming up where people can come and meet you all at the end of April.
Absolutely. So April 29th and 30th, we're going to have another little seminar here where we'll talk about all different facets of your financial future, including how you can diversify your tax risk.
Look for the details on our website at Ricken-Financial.com.
Click on that events page.
And I know y'all are nailing down some of the things about that too. So be sure to check out the events page, Ricken-Financial.com, and learn about that. And I know there's an event coming up in June, one of the charities you work with, so much more. You can find it all at Ricken-Financial.com. Well, Gerry and Heidi, we get to the end of our big tax mini-series here. I'm looking forward to what we do in the next episode coming up next week. But thank you so much for enlightening us. You've taught me quite a bit, and I think this episode is a great abacus, if you will, on all of the things we talked about in the weeks prior. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Hey, it's our pleasure.
And yeah, the pleasure is mine. And also very thankful to Brandon Benefield for stitching this bad boy together and getting it published. And to all of you listening here to Kick It With the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. And of course, we got to end it the right way, Gerry. Every day
is a tax holiday.
And,
that was a good one.
Yes, it is. I guess it is. We've learned that it can be.
Heidi,
and as we're doing now, Heidi, life is short.
Laugh hard.
And Godspeed, Pappy. Thank you so much. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull. He's Gerry Ricken. She's Heidi Ricken-Provost. And thank you so much for listening to Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.